Hi students. Today, while we are taking notes, notice how things have been color coordinated for you. So while you're taking notes today, you will want to make sure that if there's anything in the location that needs to be filled out, that you put that in red. The function needs to be in green, and you need to label whether it's in a plant or animal cell. You need to make sure that that's in blue. So you need to make sure that it is color coded on your notes while you're filling it in. Okay, today we are going to talk about kind of the different parts of the cell. Now remember from our discussion, every cell kind of looks different. They kind of have different shapes depending on what function it is, but all cells have these same basic parts. Okay, and we're going to start kind of from the outside and work our way in. The cell membrane surrounds the cell. It's made of proteins and lipids, and it basically kind of controls what enters and leaves the cell. So it kind of controls balance, it maintains balance. It also controls water, like how much water can come in and out. Both plant and animal cells both have a cell membrane. Okay. Now, plant cells are a little bit different. And if you remember from your microscope lab, you remember that plant cells are a lot more structured. They kind of look more boxy. Animal cells are a little bit more round. That's because plant cells actually have a cell wall, and this surrounds the cell. It's made of cellulose, which is a thicker structure. It's very, 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 very strong, and it's actually outside of the membrane, and it kind of gives that it gives the plant cell its shape. So that's what makes it look really boxy. It also protects the cell. And again, only plant cells have a cell wall. And if we go to the next slide, you can see here, we call it green because most of the time plant cells are generally green in color. And notice how there's this really thick outside layer all around here. This is all the cell wall. Okay. And then this really kind of thin pink layer that's right on the inside of the cell wall, that would be the cell membrane. So plant cells still have a cell membrane, and only plant cells have a cell wall. Now, all cells, both plant and animal, have a nucleus. It's usually in the very, very middle of the cell. It is surrounded by a nuclear membrane, and this is kind of the control room of the cell. So it's the information center. It holds DNA. It guides almost all of the processes needed for the cell. Usually it's in the middle. So in this particular animal cell, it's kind of purple, so it's right in here. And for this plant cell, it's actually right over here, kind of towards the right, and it's still kind of purplish in nature. All cells have cytoplasm, which is kind of like this jelly-like substance. It basically fills the cell. It holds all of the organelles in place, and both the plant and animal cells have a cytoplasm. So it's kind of all that like jelly stuff. So here it's kind of in pink, here it's kind of in blue. It's basically just holds all of your organelles in place. And if at any point in time you need to go back and rewind the video to make sure that you get all the notes, feel free. Now, the next part of the cell we're going to talk about are the ribosomes. Some of the ribosomes float in the cytoplasm, and a lot of them are attached to the ER, the endoplasmic reticulum. There's several in one cell. You need kind of a lot of these. They do assemble and make proteins that cells use for growth and repair and other functions. Both plant and animal cells have ribosomes. And if we take a look here, again, all these teeny tiny little dots that are kind of in the cytoplasm, those are ribosomes, but the ribosomes could also be attached to the ER, which is the endoplasmic reticulum. Lysosomes are usually located in the cytoplasm. It's kind of like, you can kind of think of it as the recyclers of the plant and animal cells, because they're kind of the trash collectors. So they take the trash, they kind of reuse it, they break it down, they kind of reorganize it. So it's kind of like the recycling center. Both plant and animal cells do have lysosomes. So there's kind of what a lysosome looks like. It's kind of empty, kind of a space, kind of like a little sac. The next thing is the Golgi body. It's in the cytoplasm, It's kind of like the mailroom of the cell. So it receives proteins, it receives other materials, it kind of packages them up and then sends them out to other parts of the cell. So this is kind of where it's like a collection center of sorts, okay? It's found in both the plant and animal cells, and it has a very distinct shape. So over here it kind of looks like this little tube-like structure, kind of like a windy snake-like thing. And over here you can see that it's right here in red. Sometimes these are referred to as the Golgi apparatus or the Golgi body. Either one is correct. Now, the mitochondria, we're going to be talking a lot about this when we start talking about photosynthesis and cellular respiration. It's a powerhouse of the cell. It takes all the food and it breaks it down and it creates the energy that we need. So it's really the powerhouse of the cell. It's mostly in the cytoplasm. Many are dispersed throughout the cell, and it provides the energy. It's kind of a rod shaped, but it's in both plant and animal cells. So it is in both of them. So if we go back to our picture of the cell, we'll notice that the mitochondria is up here. It's like a rod-like structure, and many times when you take a look at the pictures, you can see the inside of them, and the inside of them kind of looks like a wormy spiral-like shape. Here it is in the plant cell as well, so here you can see a couple of them there. Okay. They are in both plant and animal cells. The next thing we're going to talk about is the endoplasmic reticulum, or the ER. There are two types. It could be smooth or it could be rough. The difference between smooth and rough is whether it has ribosomes attached. If it has ribosomes attached, then it's the rough ER. And basically what the ER does is it transports materials, mostly proteins, from one place to another. So it helps the ribosomes kind of transport and get those proteins to where they need to be. Both plant and animal cells have ERs. Usually you will find the ER very close to the nucleus, so it's usually towards the middle. So here it is in your plant cell, and here they are on the outside of your nucleus. They're kind of the green structures right here, okay? Now let's talk about vacuoles. Vacuoles are those kind of big empty areas. They're basically like a storage facility. So it kind of stores water. Sometimes it might store food. Sometimes it can remove toxins. They are in both plant and animal cells, but what you will notice is that they are much, 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 much larger in plant cells because plant cells depend a lot on how much water they have. And you'll know whether a plant has water or not because if it doesn't have water, it might start to wilt. And that's when that vacuole will kind of start to shrink a little bit if it doesn't have enough water in it. So if we take another look at our picture here, okay, notice how large it is in this plant cell. That's because water is very, 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 very important. Okay? In our animal cell, it's not nearly as big. Okay? All right, now let's talk about something that, again, only plants have. This is the chloroplast. Again, we're going to be talking a lot about this when we talk about photosynthesis. But it contains chlorophyll, which is why plants are green. And this is where the plant cell takes an energy from the sun and it creates food. So plants make their own food. Animals have to eat food in order to get that energy, okay? So in the plant cell, notice how they are the green-like structures, and it kind of looks like little coins that have been stacked up in place. So that's kind of how its identifying feature looks, like stacks of coins. Well, that is it for our notes today. Again, if you need to go back and rewind so that you can fill in any part of your notes, feel free. Okay.